Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at AQA Alevel Psychology 2020 Paper 1 Exemplar Answers for Attachment, which you need to know for AQA Alevel Psychology. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Please note that these answers have been produced with knowledge of the mark scheme but have not been approved by the mark scheme themselves. There are 3 assessment objectives, AOs, in psychology. In this video they are color-coded. AO1 Knowledge, purple. AO2 Application, blue. AO3 Evaluation, red and green. 9-year-old Annie asks her mother, "What was I like as a toddler?" "Oh, you could be a bit difficult," Annie's mother replies. "You used to scream when I left you at nursery. When I returned to pick you up, you would run towards me and then push me away." Question 1. Identify the attachment type that Annie's mother is describing. 1 mark. Type C, insecure resistant attachment. Question 2. Distinguish between 2 other types of attachment. 4 marks. Type B, securely attached infants show moderate levels of stranger anxiety, whereas Type A, insecurely avoidant infants show low levels of stranger anxiety. Type B, securely attached infants show joy and enthusiasm on reunion, whereas Type A, insecurely avoidant infants show indifferent, little response, on reunion. Question 3. Studies of attachment often involve naturalistic observations. Suggest one way in which studies of attachment could be improved by using controlled observations. 3 marks. Controlled observations could improve this study on attachment, as they allow researchers to precisely manipulate different variables and control confounding and extraneous variables in the environment to isolate the effects and influence of these variables on behavior. This helps to establish cause and effect relationships. Controlled observations could also improve this study in attachment, as they allow researchers to define behaviors and events in a clear, measurable way that provides clarity in defining what is being observed and enables researchers to focus on specific behaviors or phenomena. This often produces quantitative data, which can be statistically analyzed in depth, providing objective results that can be compared and generalized. Question 4. Discuss research into caregiver-infant interactions in humans. 16 marks. An attachment can be defined as a close two-way emotional bond or tie between 2 individuals in which each individual sees the other as essential for their safety and own emotional security. An infant cannot speak with a caregiver to develop an attachment bond, so instead there are several ways infants and caregivers can communicate to help develop an attachment between them, including imitation is when an infant mimics or copies a caregiver's behavior. Sensitive responsiveness is when an adult attends sensitively to infant's communications. Separation distress is when an infant shows signs of anxiety when their attachment figure leaves their presence, and secure-based behavior. When an infant regularly returns and makes contact with their attachment figure while playing. Reciprocity is a two-way, mutual interactional process between a caregiver and an infant, where the caregiver and infant take it in turns to elicit and respond to the other's signals and behaviors to sustain an interaction. These kinds of reciprocal interactions strengthen the emotional connection between infant and caregiver. For example, smiling by the caregiver results in smiling by the infant. Tronick et al., 1979, conducted a laboratory study, known as the still face experiment. In the study, mothers were instructed to interact with their infants normally, then suddenly stop responding and maintain a still face expression, showing no emotion or responsiveness to the infant. This phase aimed to observe how infants reacted to the sudden change in their caregiver's behavior. After this period, the mothers resumed normal interaction to study how infants responded to the return of responsive caregiving. The interactions were recorded and the responses from the infants were noted. They found that when mothers who had been engaged in dialogue with their infants were asked to stop moving and remain static, the infants would become puzzled and distressed when their smiles were unable to provoke a reciprocal response. This suggests that infants are not passive recipients but actively participate in shaping their social interactions. A limitation of Tronic's study is that it is subjective. Only an inference could be made as to whether the baby was showing signs of distress, as an infant is not able to verbally express to anyone that they are distressed, and it is not possible to directly ask the infant if they are distressed. Therefore, the infant's behaviors and intentions cannot be accurately interpreted due to their limited ability to communicate directly. Infants' movements, such as subtle hand gestures or changes in expression, can have varied interpretations, making it complex to decipher their responses solely based on observable behaviors. This is a limitation because it implies that the subjective nature of interpreting infants' behaviors in studies like Tronic's can introduce potential biases and uncertainties into the analysis, affecting the reliability and validity of the study's conclusions. Interactional synchrony is a simultaneous and coordinated sequence of movements, communication, and emotions, such as hand and facial gestures between a caregiver and an infant, where the caregiver and infant mutually mirror and respond to each other's social behaviors to sustain communication. These kinds of synchronous interactions strengthen the bond between infant and caregiver. For example, a caregiver may pull a funny face, the infant may laugh, and then the caregiver may laugh back. Meltzoff and Moore, 1977, carried out a study into interactional synchrony between an adult model and infants of 2 to 3 weeks. The adult model displayed one of 3 facial expressions or one of 3 hand gestures, for instance opening their mouth, poking tongue out, frowning, and waving a finger. A dummy was placed in the infant's mouth to prevent any response in the initial display. After the display, the dummy was removed, and the child's expression was filmed and labeled by an independent observer. They found that there was an association between the infant's behavior and the adult model. In a later study, they did the same study with infants only 3 days old. They concluded that the fact that infants this young were displaying the behavior ruled out the possibility that the imitation behaviors are learnt. A strength of Meltzoff and Moore study is that the observation is well controlled. Meltzoff and Moore study is able to capture the microsequences of interaction processes, as it was conducted in a laboratory setting. This means that other activity that might distract a baby, such as noise, smells, and pictures, can be controlled. This is a strength because it suggests that the controlled environment of the study enabled a focused analysis of the interaction processes between caregivers and infants, leading to a more precise understanding of early social exchanges without external distractions. A limitation of Meltzoff and Moore's study is that there are psychologists who contradict their findings. Piaget, 1962, believed that true imitation developed at the end of the first year, and anything before this was response training, infant repeating behavior that was rewarded a result of operant conditioning. Piaget believed the infant's behavior was pseudo-imitation. The infant had not consciously translated what they see into a matching movement. This is a limitation because it suggests that psychologists like Piaget, 1962, have differing views on infant behavior, with Piaget proposing that what Meltzoff and Moore observed might be more related to response training rather than true imitation, indicating a discrepancy in the interpretation of early infant behaviors. A strength is that research into early caregiver-infant interaction has practical applications in parenting skills training. For example, Crotwell et al., 2013, found that a 10-minute parent-child interaction therapy, PCIT, improved interactional synchrony in 20 low-income mothers and their preschool children. On the other hand, research into caregiver-infant interaction is socially sensitive because it can be used to argue that when a mother returns to work soon after having a baby, this may risk damaging their baby's development. This is a strength because it suggests that research on early caregiver-infant interaction, such as the study by Crotwell et al., 2013, on parent-child interaction therapy, PCIT, has practical applications in parenting skills training, as demonstrated by the positive impact on interactional synchrony observed in low-income mothers and their preschool children. A limitation of research into caregiver-infant interactions is that simply observing a behavior does not give a full understanding into its developmental importance. Fellman, 2012, pointed out that ideas like synchrony and by implication reciprocity simply give names to patterns of observable caregiver and infant behaviors. These are robust phenomena in the sense that they can be reliably observed, but they still may not be particularly useful in understanding child development, as these behaviors do not provide any insight into the purpose of their behaviors. This is a limitation because it suggests that while behaviors like synchrony and reciprocity in caregiver-infant interactions are observable and reliable, they may not inherently reveal the underlying purpose or significance of these behaviors in child development, as pointed out by Fellman, 2012. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.